Sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News traffic and travel report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the M62 westbound, a broken down vehicle causes delays with one lane closed between junctions 12 and 11. The M69 northbound near junction 1 faces disruptions with a lane closure. Southbound on the M1 at junction 2, all exit lanes are closed due to a vehicle collision, expected to clear by 8:15 this evening. In Kent, on the A2 westbound between the A28 and M2, a broken down vehicle affects traffic with one lane closed, anticipated to clear by 9:40. And on the trains, expect disruptions on cross-country between Basingstoke and Eastleigh, and on Great Northern services between Ely and Kings Lynn. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News traffic and travel report.
It's our biggest Great British giveaway to date. You could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas and has all of the tech you'd expect from the latest 2025 model. We'll also give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that any adventures you take in your new motorhome are taken in style. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World with me, Charlie Peters. On tonight's show, we're joined by the former Conservative advisor James Price, former Labour list editor Peter Edwards. We're also joined by a liquidator called Wolfgang Douglas and the royal journalist Sarah Robertson.
Thank you very much. It is 7 o'clock at evening to our headlines. A third person has been removed from the UK under the one-in, one-out deal with France. Home Office sources say the man, an Iranian, was returned to France earlier on Friday. It followed the removal of an Eritrean man also today after he lost a High Court bid to halt his deportation, and also the removal of an Indian national on Thursday. The Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy says the deal is providing an immediate deterrent to people seeking to cross the Channel. Meanwhile, hundreds of migrants have been attempting to leave northern France to make that journey across to Britain. People smugglers around the Calais and Dunkirk areas pushed multiple small boats out into the water at first light, following 9 days of windy weather which prevented migrant crossings. GB News understands at least 800 asylum seekers are expected to try to complete the journey today. They will be the first to reach the UK since 188 people crossed on the 10th of September. Three Russian warplanes that violated Estonian airspace have been intercepted by NATO. Estonia says 3 MiG-31 fighter jets entered its airspace without permission and stayed there for a total of 12 minutes. It has condemned the acts as brazen. The EU's top diplomat, Kaja Kallas, who's Estonian, has also described the incident as an extremely dangerous provocation. It is the third violation of a NATO country's airspace by Russia in recent weeks. After similar incidents in Poland and Romania, the Russian military has yet to comment publicly on the incident. A man has been jailed for 14 years for child sex offences against 39 girls he catfished by pretending to be a 14-year-old boy. Stuart Latham raped a 12-year-old girl and targeted hundreds of others by posing as a 14-year-old boy on Snapchat. He preyed on girls using a fake online persona to obtain indecent images from them with a promise of cash or gifts in return, and then threatened to reveal those photographs online if they did not do as he wished. A British couple released after being detained in Afghanistan for almost 8 months have landed safely in Qatar. There were emotional scenes in Doha as 76-year-old Barbie Reynolds and her husband Peter, who's 80, were reunited with their daughter Sarah. They will now undergo medical checks in the Gulf state before returning to Britain. And the British and Irish governments have reached a new agreement on how killings linked to the Troubles should be investigated. The new measures will replace the controversial Legacy Act brought in by the Conservatives that cancelled inquests and prosecutions and was opposed by Labour, all Northern Ireland parties, several victims groups and the Irish government. It was announced earlier by the Northern Ireland Secretary Hilary Benn on the right of your picture and the Irish Deputy Prime Minister Simon Harris, who described the New Deal as a night and day improvement on the current measures.
There is now a comprehensive set of measures that both governments can take to provide the maximum truth, justice and accountability to those who urgently need it and deserve it. And that...
Those are your headlines. I'll be back with more at 8 o'clock.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Good evening and welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World with me, Charlie Peters. And tonight I'm joined by the Conservative commentator and former advisor James Price and the former Labour List editor Peter Edwards. And today we're going to be discussing the serious issue of the rape gangs scandal. In particular, recent revelations that a whistleblower who reported concerns to the police in Bradford just over 20 years ago was himself threatened with arrest. Now, GB News first revealed the testimony of former detective John Pecos in April of this year, but there's been a crucial update because the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, has referred one of those senior officers who threatened to arrest him to the National Crime Agency. It's a significant moment and it could lead to the first prosecution in all of this scandal's history for misconduct in a public office. Well, let's go to my panel now for more on this because, James, this is really long overdue.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, people will be astonished to think that no one has been punished for this, no one's been fined for this huge scandal on an industrial scale that you've done more than most people to bring to light. And you've got the government talking now about a Hillsborough law from something that happened 45 years ago and this controversial duty of candour that people will have to give on scandals going back all that way. And yet this is a scandal that's probably still going on in many areas, and yet no one has been brought to trial over this, no one has been held accountable for one of the most awful, wicked sins that we've ever heard happening in this country, and I hope that we get some truth out of it.
Before we go to our left in the corner, Peter Edwards, I think it's important to just reflect on what John Pecos, this former officer, came forward and told GB News in April, because he said that he had been gathering intelligence about a care home where children were being trafficked around Bradford for 3 months. And when he raised these concerns with social services and the police, they ignored him and said, oh, we know about this already, but we're more concerned about community cohesion. That Bradford, having recently been affected by race riots, wasn't going to be the place where proper investigations are going to take place. James, is your fear that this sort of mentality is right across the country and that this upcoming inquiry could expose that?
Yeah, absolutely right. And I think that is a pretty disgraceful decision for any public body, let alone the police, to make. They should be conducting the law and trying to keep, what would you call it, the king's peace as best as possible. And we've seen lots of accusations about two-tier policing and all the rest of it, but I think you have to take these serious crimes as you find them and leave it up to politicians and others to deal with the social ramifications. You see a very different level of policing, for example, in lots of these pro-Gaza riots. When criminality happens and it's a sort of EDL-type riot, people go and get beaten up by the police and lifted and arrested straight away. When this happens on a massive scale at some of these huge Gaza protests, OK, the police will go and take photographs of CCTV collection and go and arrest them quietly later because they don't want things to kick off. Now, I can see that's a more acute version of this, but that kind of problem means that you don't ever get the public really understanding the scale of what's happening in lots of these challenges. And I think that we need a lot more light coming out of this because the public are still not aware the scale of potential illegality and the horrors that have been happening. But we need to get that. The sunlight, I think, is the best disinfectant.
Peter Edwards, this is a major challenge for the Labour government, pressured into calling for this inquiry after months of resisting one. And now, with this information being reported to the National Crime Agency about a former officer covering up and preventing abuse from being investigated, all eyes are now on the government to make sure that prosecutions and proper investigations take place.
There's pressure on all of society, everyone who's entrusted with making a decision, local authorities, police and the government have responsibility to get through this. I don't doubt these types of conversations happened because we know there was institutional failure and the police got it very, very wrong at times. We've got a system now of local inquiries announced by Yvette Cooper when she was Home Secretary prior to the recent reshuffle. So I hope we will get to the bottom of this, but it's going to take a lot of self-reflection and a lot of peeling back the layer of concealment that we've seen. And it's going to be slow and it's going to be methodical. And I hope we can take some of the party politics out of it as well.
Now, in May, before this inquiry was announced, and when Shabana Mahmood was the Justice Secretary, she said that there was a reckoning still due on the grooming abuse gang scandal right across the country. Now, I think that's some of the strongest language we've heard from a Labour minister on this issue. In all your time working in Labour circles and as an editor, did you often sense a hesitation from politicians when engaging with this issue? We know that the Tories bottled it for decades, but within your own party's ranks, there's an additional concern, isn't there? Because so many Labour voters come from Pakistani communities where there is an overrepresentation of this abuse, and there might be a fear that they want to sort of rock the multicultural boat, to quote one former Rotherham MP.
It's very distressing, ultimately, and I don't want to make too much party politics out of it. I didn't find any reluctance to talk about it in Labour Party circles, but as horrific as it is, in any party, in any social movement, there's obviously a range of injustices like war abroad, poverty alleviation in this country and abroad, debt, the state of the NHS that people talk about. I don't think among ordinary members on the left or the right there's a reluctance to talk about it. What we're talking about...
Come on, Peter. I mean, in May, the now former Leader of the House of Commons, Lucy Powell, derided this as a dog whistle issue, dog whistle politics. That's how she described it on the BBC. You know, she apologised after we brought that to the nation's attention, as it were, the day after. But that does point to people wanting to push us into the long grass. This is something that Labour has struggled to deal with.
I think what Lucy Powell said wasn't very wise, and she apologised very quickly and she reflected on that. But I come back to this wider point. There's been enormous institutional failure that has damaged and in some cases destroyed the lives of children, and many of the people who took decisions have not yet been held publicly accountable for the role they took, and it matters to all of us. I lived in West Yorkshire for many years. I was a financial journalist, so I was writing about different types of things as a reporter, but it's a duty on anyone who cares about society to help us get to the bottom of this. But I think now with Shabana Mahmood and previously Yvette Cooper as Home Secretary, we will make progress, and I think that's why the local inquiries will help.
Now, James, you just heard Peter there saying it's not really a party political issue. We try and draw it away, but fundamentally, politicians have the power here and have the opportunity to make things change. And we do know, for example, that Jess Phillips, the Safeguarding Minister, has had a really torrid time on this issue, particularly over the last half year or so. Now, back before she was a minister, when she was a backbench Labour MP in opposition, there was one really controversial moment, again on the BBC, on Question Time, I think, when she described the Cologne sex attacks on New Year's Eve about a decade ago as just something you'd see any night on Birmingham New Street on a Saturday night, just a sort of similar behaviour you'd see there. Does that point to a wider pattern that you might detect across left-wing politicians in Britain, where they try to play down migrant sex attacks or non-British sex crimes? Is that, do you think, part of a wider conspiracy or concern that they have?
Yeah, very much so. I think so. And not just limited to left-wing politicians in Britain. I think you see a diminution of crime as an issue by left-wing politicians around the world. The governor of Illinois, J.B. Pritzker in America, Chicago is one of the most dangerous cities on earth. I was there last year. It's got the strictest gun laws in America and yet some of the most awful gun homicide statistics. And his guy came out and said, this is just part and parcel of living in a big city. Well, go and tell that to people who live in Singapore, go and tell that to people who live in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, where there is almost no crime at all out on the streets. You don't have to have this. And it's part and parcel, I think, of what you'd call the bigotry of low expectations, of just saying, well, there are cultural differences, we don't want to inflame that, maybe people don't understand that these things are so bad. No, I don't think you can have a successful civilization, a successful society, if that's your approach to crime. We all know, by the way, that crime mostly affects the poorest people, so you would think that left-wing politicians would care about it, especially when it comes to these kinds of heinous crimes. And the last thing I'd say, my old boss in government was born in Baghdad, right? Nadeem Zahawi, the guy who faced all kinds of nasty abuse and all the rest of it for this colour of his skin, mostly, by the way, from people on the left. It was one of the few people to try and talk out about things like the role of the Muslim Brotherhood and all these other kinds of insidious networks spreading across the country. It's great that Nigel Farage has said that he will try and ban the Muslim Brotherhood, for example, but our fearfulness about talking about people's original countries or their religions or other kind of sectarian divides. These are obviously animating principles in public life, and if the police or journalists or politicians shy away from that, you'll never get to the truth. And I say again, the truth is what we need. That's what we need to get justice for people.
Peter, can you see an opportunity where politicians of all stripes come together to work for justice on this inquiry? As we mentioned those controversial comments from Jess Phillips a decade ago, I think she's still sort of working her way back from those, and people still are very aware of that when discussing this crisis. But also we've seen Lib Dems in the chamber, again, as recently as this year, deriding politicians for referring to the overrepresentation of some ethnicities in group-based CSEs. So we still have this nervousness, isn't it? This isn't something from a decade ago or even further away. Do you think now, with the amount of focus on this crisis, there's a chance for politicians of all backgrounds to sort of overcome that nervousness, that censoriousness of you can't isolate this issue, you can't call that out, and actually we might finally get some justice?
What I've just heard from James is absolutely ludicrous. Jess Phillips is more qualified than anyone in this room to talk about abuse and violence against women and girls. Jess Phillips ran a women's refuge before entering Parliament. The point she made about Birmingham was in any city, sadly, where there's a lot of alcohol consumed, young people, but particularly young women, are put at risk by bad behaviour. And sadly, a lot of that behaviour is carried out by men. So I'm baffled why James uses the word conspiracy. Jess Phillips has been, and you don't have to agree with it, but you would accept she was plain speaking, honest, and she's speaking from her own experience.
Is it honest, James? Is it honest?
No, I mean, well, there we have it. We have the justification that crime is just something you have to put up with in cities. I don't agree with that.
Sorry, that's the opposite of what I said.
Jess Phillips also someone, by the way, of course, who last year, during the riots that came out of the Axel Rudikabana murders, Jess Phillips seemed to defend the popping up of a specifically and self-identified Muslim militia in Birmingham because they, quote, thought there would be some far-right people around and trying to justify this. This, again, is Jess Phillips, who was hounded and harassed at her own voting count at the last general election by people who were backing a Gaza independent candidate who almost beat her. And when asked who these people were, all she could bring herself to do was say it was men.
And Peter, at the same time, just referring to men again there, Jess Phillips did that on another occasion when there was recent statistics released showing the overrepresentation of sex crimes according to nationalities, going around foreign nationalities. She said actually the main problem is not ethnic origin or nationalities, but men. That's the key indicator. Is that a broadening out of the issue to avoid talking about specific and difficult issues?
I don't think so, and I don't understand why people on this programme would seek to target Jess Phillips when she's one of the most qualified people in Parliament on this subject.
Well, we don't judge people based on qualifications, we judge them based on their actions, all right? What does qualifications mean to you? As in your experience makes you great, or what you've achieved in the past makes you able to be decent in your job in the future?
I think having knowledge and first-hand experience of what you're talking about, as Jess Phillips does, is really helpful. And
there's knowledge, but we don't judge politicians based on their knowledge, we judge them on what they do and what they say.
Let me try and finish one answer without you interrupting. I'd say both Labour and Tory ministers have been quite robust and strong on the disruption to democratic life, and they've realised that issues around grooming gangs were covered up for far too long, and they've tried to bring sunlight to bear on this. Now, in your introduction earlier, you suggested that MPs were somehow encouraging criminality, and you referred to a militia. I mean, that is nonsense. There is no minister from the left or the right, Labour or Tory, who wants to see the law broken in the UK.
Coming up on the show, Real World, Real People.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show Live starts Monday night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hello, good evening. Welcome back to Lee Anderson's Real World with me, Charlie Peters. And now it's time for Real World, Real People. And I've got a very excellent guest with me here this evening. It's Wolfgang Douglas, an asset liquidator. And Wolfgang, it's great to have you here.
Thank you, Charlie.
Tell me about what that role means, because clues in the name, really, but a lot of people may not know what actually goes on in your trade.
Well, it's a specialist industry. So it's something that's sort of been created by the economic situation at the moment.
So you come in when people are in trouble, right? They are living a lifestyle they can't maintain, they've gone way beyond their means, and they turn to you because they've sort of hit a moment of acceptance. This is all going wrong.
What we're seeing is a liquidity problem. And we haven't seen something quite as dramatic as this since 2008. And what you're seeing is the whole market is having the same problem, very much at the same time. And my business has thrived on the back of that. I come to you when you're either insolvent or you just can't keep up and you're underwater. So you come to someone like me who is liquid and you say, find me a solution. And that's what I do. And we're seeing that more and more as we're watching this economy slide. And is projected to continue sliding unless there's a change in government.
I mean, you must have encountered some really extraordinary situations where people have sort of hit that wall and they've realised they can't go on any further and they come to you. You drove here in a Bentley, which is the smartest car we've seen knocking around this pub for a while. And you've acquired that because someone's come up to you saying, take this off me, please.
In the literal sense, they come to me because they're underwater. They're living in a culture of toxic credit. And this culture is killing us. And the gentleman that actually took that car off, I took a large volume of other assets as well. And it was a literal please help. It's a cry for help. And we're being forced into this corner because we're being told that we must buy these things. When was the last time you hear anybody buying a new Mondeo? I remember when I was younger, lots of people had new Mondeos. Today, everyone has to have a Range Rover. You know, people used to go on holiday to a British holiday.
It's becoming more expensive nowadays, often than the flying to Greece or Albania, but yeah, they're not going there, are they? Exactly.
They have to go to Ibiza now.
Sure.
And it has to be on video.
Yeah.
You know, even down to the food we eat.
Yeah.
You know, food looks like art now.
Yeah.
It's out of control, and this rampant toxic credit that we all have it today, pay for tomorrow, drives people to people like me.
What's driving this? I mean, I'll tell you my view. I mean, I think it's a narcissistic social media culture. Everyone thinks they're their own mini celebrity, right? And they've got to be living this flashy, big brands, big names lifestyle where everyone thinks that they're like a model on a catwalk. When I was growing up, which wasn't that long ago, I never used to encounter men walking down the high street as if they're, you know, applying for a role to be the front of a new menswear brand. But nowadays, everyone's taking new photos with their new gear, their new clothes. What's driving that?
I would say that our biggest problem we're having at the moment, and what I face in my business, is that we are told if we don't do this, there's something wrong. And it's almost being forced down our necks. And when I see people today, that's exactly the problem that they're running in. They're earning £30,000 a year and they're spending £45,000 a year, £50,000 a year. Somewhere down the line, you have to fail. We're also being told at the same time to work less and expect more. Well, if you put the two together, the maths just don't add.
Yeah, and the culture and the politics that we have is driving, you think, more of the work less, spend more culture because we've got such a big benefit system now, ever-expanding PIP system as well.
Kim Kardashian, can
yeah, precisely. But more and more people want to be like that. And do you think they're being incentivised to live like that by the state, by our tax rules, pay, and also by the benefit system as well?
I come from more of a humble background. So my concept on saving is very different than most people. But today, people just don't save. And they're told to spend. But they're not told just to spend. They're told to spend what they don't have. And if you do that for long enough, the adverse effect is impossible to deny. And that's what we're watching. And this is happening in businesses. And you're seeing the third generation of people that turn up. First generation builds a business. Second generation blows that business up. Third generation destroys it. And I'm watching it over and over.
Wolfgang, you're speaking about your humble beginnings you're very proud of. You're also a proud Romani gypsy as well.
Yeah,
has that helped inspire and shape your business acumen? Have you learned from your family, speaking about those generations and how people sort of build up and then blow up? What's been the sort of learnings from your family heritage in this world?
What I would say about Romani Chil gypsy people is most of them are business people. There's a poor narrative around the word gypsy, but generally people from my community or culture are business people, business orientated. I'm very business orientated. Business to me is my hobby. So I enjoy business. Business is what I think about in the morning. It's what I go to bed thinking about as I go to sleep. And that is what we should be teaching in our schools. If today you had people that were told to be successful and taught how to be successful, you would have successful people. Today we celebrate footballers and rappers. We celebrate rap culture and all of the degrading eventualities that pursues. We're also told at the same time to work less, expect more, go on at least 4 or 5 holidays, only work 5 days a week, and spend more than you earn. It's toxic. And at the moment, especially with our current government, this has been hyper accelerated. And as you're seeing that, you're creating scenarios for people like me to turn up and say, right, how do I work with this group of people? There is no liquidity, and that's why you have an asset liquidator.
Thank you, Wolfgang Douglas. Pleasure to meet you. Thanks for coming in this evening. And coming up on Lee Anderson's Real World with me, Charlie Peters, it's right versus left with my panel, James Price and Peter Edwards.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a wet start to the weekend for some, with a Met Office warning in force for heavy rain across northern and western areas. A much chillier day for all from Sunday onwards. Back to this evening though, and we've got this lingering weather front slowly edging its way southwestwards, dragging in some cloud and plenty of outbreaks of rain. This is set to continue through the overnight period, pushing more outbreaks of rain across parts of Wales, southwest England. This could be heavy at times. Otherwise, it should be mostly dry, just a few blustery showers clipping into the far northwest of Scotland and western coasts of Northern Ireland, but with plenty of cloud around, it should be a mostly mild night, temperatures dropping between 8 to 9 degrees Celsius in Scotland. Then to start off the weekend in Scotland, yes, we're still going to continue to see blustery showers across the far north and northwest. Elsewhere, though, it should be mostly dry. Some showers starting to clip western coasts of Northern Ireland, and it is going to be a very wet start across northern parts of England, similar across Wales and southwest England too, where we could still see some quite heavy downpours of rain first thing on Saturday. Now, this system will slowly try to edge its way southeastwards. It's fairly slow moving, but it will eventually move into central parts of England, parts of the south too. A rain warning has been issued, so a chance we could see some localised flooding. A mix of sunny spells and showers across Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, perhaps merging into some areas of persistent rain across Northern Ireland later. Staying mostly dry across the southeast, that's where we'll see the best of the temperatures. Not feeling quite as warm as Friday, but highs still reaching around 23 degrees Celsius. Now on Sunday, there are still set to be some spells of rain, turning into brighter spells and showers by the afternoon. But with a northerly flow of wind, things are set to feel a little bit chillier, particularly across Scotland in the strengthening breeze. Into next week, it should be mostly dry and sunny, but the chilly feel is here to stay, and it's likely we'll even start to see some overnight frost.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Lee Anderson's Real World with me, Charlie Peters. And now it's time for Right versus Left. And I'm still joined by my panel, the former Conservative advisor, James Price, and the former Labour list editor, Peter Edwards. And there's only one real major debate taking place in Britain this week in domestic politics, and that's immigration, because the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Philp, has said that we need to disapply the Human Rights Act to deal with the crumbling one-in, one-out deal with France after several migrants have had their deportations blocked at the last minute by the High Court. A major crisis now for the Prime Minister. The human rights lawyer is now being scuppered by his former profession.
No, I don't think so. We know the system was a mess and the Tories really struggled on this over 14 years. I think, as you know, Labour government signed a deal with France, one in, one out. All these things are subject to legal challenge. That's the way of the world. But proceedings have only been stayed for 14 days, and that's to give the Eritrean individual involved the chance to build his case a bit more. But the concept of the one in, one out deal has not been defeated.
Is Peter right? We just need to give the government a bit more time to deal with these legal blocks, and that eventually this will get over the line?
No, this is entirely insufficient. It doesn't need to be the way of the world that it's legal challenges with all this. We don't have a system in the United Kingdom where the judiciary should be more powerful than the British Parliament. It's Parliament that's sovereign. What we need would be a whole new act to disapply huge amounts of all of this stuff. It's not just the Human Rights Act in 1998 where Tony Blair ported in a load of this ECHR nonsense onto the domestic statute, but as if we didn't have any rights in this country before Tony Blair came along, or they don't have any rights in Canada or Australia or America or Japan where they don't have the rule of the ECHR ruling over them. Of course, that's absolutely nonsense. And what it means is that we have huge numbers of people in this country who shouldn't be here, who we're paying for forever, and we're finding it impossible to get rid of.
So Peter, in this case, it wasn't about sending someone back to Eritrea, but actually back to France, not even at that level of risk, because there was a fear that they could be destitute, one of the legal arguments made by the Eritrean Man's Council. But fundamentally, it was modern slavery legislation that came to his defence and prevented him from being deported. Doesn't just go to show that there are so many different legal routes now to get away from deportation, and we need a massive legal overhaul.
Well, I've not met many people who are against modern slavery legislation. That was, of course, introduced by
Theresa May,
the Conservative Prime Minister. But also having a fair process is part of life in a democracy. I don't think James is saying we should adopt the judicial approach of Russia or Iran or in Zimbabwe and just sling people in jail because we think they might have done something wrong. We have a fair process. I think we all need that to work quicker.
But the crossings themselves, just coming over, that's already an illegal act, is it not, Peter? And so when people are breaking into the country instead of claiming asylum through the right routes...
Sorry to interrupt. Don't use this phrase from Robert Jenrick, breaking into the country. It is a very, very daft phrase. To say that all people coming on small boats are breaking the law is lumping different cohorts of people into one group, which I really don't like. Some put in asylum claims, some of the claims are granted, some are not. And some are ultimately found to be here legally, and then the state tries to remove them. But I'm really against a generic strategy where you lump everyone into one group and say they're all bad, let's get rid of them all. Life and fairness in the immigration asylum system, which was not working under the Tories, is a bit more complex.
You said fairness. There is nothing fair about making British taxpayers pay for ever higher numbers of people who are crossing illegally.
What's your proposal?
into this country. There's nothing. You have to. Well, the proposals would be you'd get rid of all the incentives to stay and say bring back the law that says if you enter this country illegally, which everybody on the small boats is doing, then you will never be granted asylum. That's one that would work. I actually disagree with some people. I think that Rwanda would be a small part to play in some of this. I think you have to say that for a lot of people who are here already, that their visas are going to be revoked, and you start using various sanctions on other home countries, taking away visas, taking away foreign aid, and things like that. On the point about asylum seekers, of course, 20-odd years ago, the successful rate of asylum claims was about 5%. Now it's about 66%, about two-thirds. And Tony Blair, not exactly a kind of close, tight borders kind of guy, was saying that a huge number of these people are bogus asylum seekers and actually just economic migrants on the make. What's changed in that time is the fact that the judicial powers that be and these charities that support these people have got a lot stronger, and the state has got a lot weaker, and it's the British public who suffer that.
He's got a point, hasn't he?
I think James has got a brass neck, having worked for the Conservative government that presided over what we all accept is a failing system. I also want to nail this myth that the judges are the ones with the power. Where do judges get their from?
Parliament.
Exactly,
right.
From Parliament. So I hate this phrase, activist judges. If under a Conservative majority for many years, the British government and a Conservative Parliament empowered judges in a way James doesn't like, you know, that's not the fault of a Labour government that's been in office for 12 months.
But it is the opportunity for a Labour government to change it, right? If all those laws are currently being used in the wrong way and beyond perhaps
the one in, one out deal was an example of delivering that change.
It's not going to take time. But it's going, as you say, it's going to take time. But could be sped up and there could be further action taken. A lot of people might not think that 1 in, 1 out is enough and that there are further decisions that could be taken. I mean, Shabana Mahmood is speaking about visa penalties. Could there potentially be foreign aid penalties for countries that refuse to take back deportations? Do you support stronger action being taken by the Labour government to deal with this?
I think in the views of voters, it's the number 1 or number 2 priority in the whole country. Both small boat arrivals are only about 4 or 5% of total migration stats. Public concern about it is very, very high. And to try and take some of the politics out of it, Rishi Sunak and then the Labour government both tried to reduce some of the pull factors. So, for example, they made it harder for the families of foreign students or the families of economic migrants to settle here as well. So you're trying to reduce the incentives to come to Britain in the first place. That will continue. Briefly, I think the other thing we'll see more of is bilateral deals with other countries for returns.
Like what we have with Albania, for example. Go on, James.
Oh, no, but what, if that's you want to take the politics out of it, I understand it, and I understand the Conservatives didn't do enough on this. I would have loved to have been in the Home Office myself and tried to do some of this.
It's very honest of you to admit that.
I would love to have been in those departments. I wasn't in those departments, and as you'll know, special advisors are not ministers and don't have the power to do these things you're trying to say that I didn't do. But if I were the Labour government and I was actually serious about this, why then did they scrap Rwanda, which could well have worked, and why did they get rid of, again, this rule that said if you come into the country illegally, you will never be allowed to be granted asylum? That would have been a massive disincentive, and they got rid of it straight away. A massive, massive error, and I hope that the new Home Secretary recognises the error of her predecessor and fixes that.
Let's tackle the Rwanda scheme first, otherwise you're interviewing yourself. The Rwanda scheme didn't work. That's just a fact.
We never got going, right? I blame Rishi Sunak massively for calling an election before it had chance to become a disincentive.
Well, James, you are interviewing yourself. The Rwanda scheme
I'm very happy with that.
Work. The number of people that were forcibly removed from the UK under the Rwanda scheme was a big, fat zero. That is literally the definition of something not working. But I'd go further, actually, and I'm not a Labour MP. I think the Rwanda scheme was evil and it was wrong.
Oh, come on.
James,
How is
you're
that
interviewing
evil?
yourself. James, you're interviewing yourself.
I'm interviewing you. How is that evil?
And I say that because I've been to Rwanda. This is a country recovering from a genocide. It's very poor. Families are still traumatised by what happened. Secondly, why should Britain see itself as that incompetent that it can't deal with these types of things itself? The Rwanda scheme was morally wrong.
Hang on. I'm actually interviewing both of you, so let me bring this back in a bit. Talking about the Rwanda scheme and its and obviously the destination there as an evil regime, as you describe it, Peter.
Not an evil regime, an evil plan.
An evil plan, but you don't think the regime is evil?
I think President Kagame has behaved in a very bad way. There's stifling of democracy, there's stifling of free expression of journalism.
Not necessarily evil, but negative regime. You don't trust the country in terms of human rights?
I don't trust President Kagame at all.
Okay, so let's say that. Now, is the problem the destination or the plan itself? Because, of course, Australia's also had offshore processing. Obviously, it's a very different place geographically. Would you support an alternative arrangement that didn't involve, say, an East African quasi-despotic regime?
There may be a case for looking at offshore processing, but it still comes back to the point of why can't Britain resolve issues like this on its own?
Perhaps because of the human rights legislation that permits people to come over and incentivises them to reside in hotels for months on end.
But that's a separate issue to processing, isn't it? Because processing is not the outcome. It's literally just that.
But the processing is what you're doing to prevent the crossing in the first place.
The theory put forward by Tory cabinet ministers in the previous parliament was that Rwanda scheme acted as a deterrent to people attempting to come over here. I'm not sure people fleeing Sudan or wishing to come here as an economic migrant are reading the Daily Telegraph. I don't think they know about it.
I think they probably are, James, actually, because there's so much information available for the smugglers and those keen to get across. We do live in a digital world. People are aware of the impacts being made by legislation, and if they are told by clever government-led communications targeting these people, if you come here, you won't remain, that's going to have an impact.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And look, the Rwanda scheme didn't actually get going because, as I say, Rishi called the election way too soon. But it was also stymied by, again, all these kinds of judges and injunctions and all the rest of it, preventing some of those flights going off. We know that the people, the smugglers in Calais, are giving information to these people. Some of the information, by the way, I think they're giving videos of young women on nights out, incentivising them. This is what you can find when you come over to this country. One other piece of information that I think they'll know about Rwanda, such an awful, terrible place to be sent to, that their tourism board advertises on the shirt of Arsenal Football Club, which is supported week in, week out by the Prime Minister. So it can't be that terrible a destination if they're allowed to advertise holidays there.
Peter, this is obviously going to be rumbling on for at least 2 more weeks as we wait for the response for this Eritrean man. Could we expect a government change here, and would you support one as they try and overcome these hurdles?
Well, it'd be daft when it's only 2 weeks to wait until the outcome.
But you don't think it's going to be the last one, do you?
No, I'd imagine there'll be a lot more challenges, but ultimately we've got to keep reminding ourselves, judges only get their power because it's vested in them by Parliament. Let's throw out this idea there are activist judges. Such a thing does not exist.
I'm asking you to do that. I'm saying let's throw that away. Let's get Parliament to change the law, yes or no?
Well, the law on what?
Human rights legislation, various modern slavery acts, ECHR. Any changes there?
I think you've got to be a bit more specific. That's probably about 10,000 pages of statute.
Lots to do then, clearly. Thank you, James. Thank you, Peter. And next up on Lee Anderson's Real World, it's Last Orders with Sarah Robertson.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hot weather continues across the Canaries. It will turn a little cooler here into next week. Plenty of fine and sunny weather for Greece and Turkey, although a bit of a brisk breeze blowing across some of the Greek islands. Lots of sunshine too for Italy during the weekend, and indeed for much of eastern and southern Spain. But we will see increasing cloud and some showers over northern Spain and northern Portugal during Saturday afternoon. It is hot in Tenerife, but those temperatures just dipping off a little bit into next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show Live starts Monday night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, that sounds like last orders, and I'm very happy to be joined now by Sarah Robertson. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Charlie. Good evening.
Now,
great to be behind the bar here with you.
It's great to have you. I know you're a hard worker as a royal journalist covering all the interesting scoops and thrills in the royal world. What have you made of this week, the state visit?
This week has been royal excellence, I have to say. I've been very, very, very excited watching, obviously, Princess Catherine, the Princess of Wales, shine. I mean, she really is just such a beacon for this country. And she's got President Trump now on side. He was beaming, wasn't he, when he was sat next to her at the state banquet a few nights ago at Windsor Castle. And it's been incredible this week just to watch the Princess of Wales really come back into the royal limelight after obviously her year of recovery from cancer. So for us royal journalists, royal watchers around the world, we've been all eyes on her, waiting to see what she was going to wear, and she really did shine when she was walking through that hall into the state banquet, and all eyes were on her. And yeah, I think she's such an advocate for our country around the world. She really is a great symbol.
Now, obviously, Sarah, the second state visit of Donald Trump to the United Kingdom, the first US president or world leader to receive that honour, it does just go to show how powerful the monarchy is as a tool of soft power, isn't it? Something we can use to sort of bring forward world leaders and introduce them to some of the majesty that the country has to offer. Do you think that tool is being deployed very carefully with Donald Trump?
Absolutely. As you've just said, no one does pomp and ceremony like Great Britain. We're known for it around the world. There's no other country compares. And to see the most powerful man in the world, President Donald Trump, in awe. He was cock-a-hoop at the spectacle that we put on for him. They've been calling it the trooping of the Donald because that's how it felt. You know, he had the fly past. He got to have the magnificence of that state banquet in Windsor Castle. All of that history. I mean, there's nowhere like it in the world. To be in that room, you could see his eyes. He didn't know where to look, apart from then when the Princess of Wales took her place next to him, and then all eyes were on her. But I think it just shows how effective our monarchy is, that it's still held up as such a sign for goodness and for people to strive to achieve. People look at our monarchy around the world and they just see it as this beacon. It's something so untouchable, unobtainable. You can't buy your way into it. It's above everything. It's above politics.
Well,
it's above every other
as a potential
royal family.
As a potential challenge to that, while all the joy has been surrounding the state banquet and the state visit, we've also had this very difficult and nervous moment for Prince William when Prince Andrew approached him at that funeral this week for the Duchess of Kent. Now, you say it's a beacon that's seen as a great symbol of good around the world.
Charlie, don't be naughty.
The presence of Prince Andrew continues to haunt this family, doesn't it?
Look, there's always one black sheep, isn't there, in every family? There just is. Everyone knows this. Everyone's got the dodgy uncle or dodgy cousin or dodgy brother, and in the royal family it happens to be the Duke of York. And I really felt for Prince William because he was put on the spot massively at the Duchess of Kent's funeral this week, and he was stood on the steps ready to go down, and Andrew just sort of lurched.
The footage is mortifying.
It is.
He doesn't know what to do, really, other than just maintain that stony silence.
Yes, and I think William is someone who can do stony silence very, very, very well. Some journalists have been on the receiving end of that over the years. Name no names. But he looked very annoyed because he knew exactly what his uncle was trying to do, and it was an ambush in front of the cameras, in front of the world's eyes. you know, Andrew trying to be all jovial, trying to be like all jokey and like, oh yeah, with my nephew. And it's at a funeral. You've just come out of a funeral. You're meant to be in a state of mourning. At least try and wear an expression of, you don't have to look grim, but just try and wear a normal expression instead of this laughing and joking that him and his wife, Sarah Ferguson, were trying to do. It was just embarrassing. And you could see William felt deeply uncomfortable because he knew what was going on, but he just would not meet his uncle's gaze. He would not laugh. He would not join in.
They must have been
he gave him the silent treatment.
Absolutely, and they must have been so relieved that the state banquet happened so soon after that funeral,
cancel.
just to overwhelm the coverage of that moment, because it's not something that Prince William and the royal family press aides will want to see played out again. Although we're of course going to play it out right now, but with that state banquet, they are obviously behind the scenes. They would have been so nervous about what Donald Trump might say. He's not known for sticking to a script, is he?
No, he's not.
Do you know what? I was a bit disappointed in the King's speech because...
Were you? Why? I thought it was excellent.
It was just reading from a piece of paper the whole time, and what he was reading felt like a CEO describing how good his country was and the links between America. There wasn't enough joy and lightness in there for me.
I felt there was.
I thought it was way too much like a politician's speech rather than a monarch's speech.
But you have to remember that King Charles does have strong opinions, as we've known over the years, when he was caught with what was famously known as the spider letters, because he likes to, you know, send off these letters to politicians with his ideas about the environment and one thing and another. And that is something that Donald Trump has spoken before in the past. He said when he had the meeting with the King spent over an hour talking about the environment, and Trump obviously just got bored, I think, and was a bit like, oh God, this is really overpowering. So I think that's just King Charles. He has very serious views on things, and he really wanted to just impart to Donald Trump what he thinks about stuff, so Donald knew his ideas.
Well, Sarah Robertson, while you keep pouring praise on the King, let's see if you can pour a pint, because we've got you a beautiful bar here, obviously, to work with. Have you worked in a bar before, Sarah?
Well, I've got a little bit of a claim to fame here.
Go on, let's get cracking.
I once, don't want to sound like I'm showing off everybody, but I once poured a pint at the Rover's Return. I don't know if you're a Coronation Street fan, Charlie.
Can't say it's been part of my
well,
my
maybe some
experience.
GB News viewers have watched
sure
Corrie in the past. They'll know the Rover's Return. Very, very, the oldest soap opera pub.
Oh, yeah?
Older than the Queen Vic by 20 years, I think that's right.
Not going to win any awards, is it?
That's good. No, that's good. That's good. So let me just see if I can...
I've poured thousands of pints in my time, grafting away.
If I could do a good one to make Lee Anderson proud. How's this going?
This
is looking good? Is this smooth?
Absolutely smooth.
Not bad, am I? And I look good behind the bar.
All pays.
Better
there
than
we go.
me.
Look at that. Oh.
Look at that,
Sarah
everybody.
Robson, masterful.
Is that not a good pint?
I think that's magical.
Do you think they're going to give me a job here now?
I think absolutely. With that sort of work.
Barmaid.
With that sort of work.
Yeah.
Sarah Robertson.
The royal barmaid.
Sarah Robertson, you're obviously a pint pulling extraordinaire.
Well, on Friday night with me, Matt Goodwin, tonight I'm going to be telling you what I think about some of the bombshell stories this week. We're going to be hearing from a top security official about an Egyptian asylum seeker in this country, the latest bombshell news on the economy, and more.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. It's going to be a wet start to the weekend for some, with a Met Office warning in force for heavy rain across northern and western areas. A much chillier day for all from Sunday onwards. Back to this evening though, and we've got this lingering weather front slowly edging its way southwestwards, dragging in some cloud and plenty of outbreaks of rain. This is set to continue through the overnight period, pushing more outbreaks of rain across parts of Wales, southwest England. This could be heavy at times. Otherwise, it should be mostly dry, just a few blustery showers clipping into the far northwest of Scotland and western coasts of Northern Ireland. But with plenty of cloud around, it should be a mostly mild night, temperatures dropping between 8 to 9 degrees Celsius in Scotland. Then to start off the weekend, in Scotland, yes, we're still going to continue to see blustery showers across the far north and northwest. Elsewhere, though, it should be mostly dry. Some showers starting to clip western coasts of Northern Ireland, and it is going to be a very wet start across northern parts of England, similar across Wales and southwest England too, where we could still see some quite heavy downpours of rain first thing on Saturday. Now, this system will slowly try to edge its way southeastwards. It's fairly slow moving, but it will eventually move into central parts of England, parts of the south too. A rain warning has been issued, so a chance we could see some localised flooding. A mix of sunny spells and showers across Northern Ireland, parts of Scotland, perhaps merging into some areas of persistent rain across Northern Ireland later. Staying mostly dry across the southeast, that's where we'll see the best of the temperatures. Not feeling quite as warm as Friday, but highs still reaching around 23 degrees Celsius. Now on Sunday, there are still set to be some spells of rain, turning into brighter spells and showers by the afternoon. But with a northerly flow of wind, things are set to feel a little bit chillier, particularly across Scotland in the strengthening breeze. Into next week, it should be mostly dry and sunny, but the chilly feel is here to stay, and it's likely we'll even start to see some overnight frost.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
It's our biggest Great British giveaway to date. You could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This 4-berth home from home comes complete with integrated kitchen and bathroom areas and has all of the tech you'd expect from the latest 2025 model. We'll also give you an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that any adventures you take in your new motorhome are taken in style. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you